Hello and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today we're going to talk about how to write advantage and disadvantage essays and discussion essays for writing task 2. After you watch this class, if you have any questions for us, you can click on the chat icon at the top of your page here. If you click on that icon, you will be able to send us a message with any questions that you have. This is the first class of 2 classes, and this video will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to talk about how to analyze the question and plan your ideas. Then we're going to talk about writing introductions. So by the end of this video, you'll be more aware of how to start your essay. During this video, there will be some questions for you to answer. I will tell you when you need to answer them, and you can find them below the video. I will give you about 10 to 15 seconds to answer the question. Okay, let's get started. Firstly, what do we do when we're faced with a task 2 question? Before you start writing, you need to analyze the question. It's very important that you understand what the question is asking you, what the topic is, and what type of essay you need to write in response to the question. You need to use your planning time, so that's at least 5 minutes, to brainstorm some ideas. These ideas are going to make up your body paragraphs. You then need to decide on the structure of your essay. Most task 2 essays will have about 4 paragraphs. Your introduction, your conclusion, and then 2, possibly 3 body paragraphs. Here is an example question. Let's read through it. Some people say that sports stars get paid too much. Other people think that they deserve the money they receive. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. When we are faced with a question, we need to identify the keywords. So what are the keywords? Keywords are most often nouns and noun phrases. So these are the things or the people being talked about. Verbs and verb phrases may also be important. Sometimes adjectives, if they give a definition of something, and there may be some adverbs and adverb phrases that we can identify as important. So let's look at this example. The question starts with "some people say that," and then it says "other people think that." These sentence beginnings are quite common for opinion and discussion essays, so we can ignore these. We have sports stars, which is a noun phrase, get paid, which is a passive verb phrase, and too much. So here the meaning is that sports people, people who play sports, get a salary which is too high. So too much there is an adverb phrase. Other people think that they deserve the money they receive. So we have a verb deserve, meaning they have a right to this money. We have the noun money, and we have another verb receive. So from this question, we can identify the 2 sides of the argument. Sports stars are paid too much. On the other hand, they deserve the money they receive. So that's the important message of this question. Here we see another example. This is from an advantage and disadvantage essay question. Let's read the question. Nowadays, an increasing number of people are working from home instead of going into the office. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this? I'd like you to think about the keywords in this question. Look at the first question below this video and choose the correct options for the keywords. Here, there are 4 main keywords or phrases to pick out. Choose the 4 correct options. So let's identify those keywords. First, we have nowadays. Nowadays is not a keyword here because we're not focusing on the time difference. Many questions start with these days or nowadays, and here it's not especially relevant. An increasing number. So this is a noun phrase that tells us that this quantity is growing. Quantity of what? People. So we're talking about people who have jobs. The verb phrase working from home is a useful keyword because it contrasts with going into the office. So on one hand, people are working at home in their own houses as opposed to being at the office, at their workplace. So the 4 keywords are here. We should use these keywords when we brainstorm our ideas. Our ideas must relate to these keywords. Let's think about that previous question and brainstorm some ideas for and against this argument. So if we remember, those keywords were sports stars get paid too much. On the other hand, they deserve the money they receive. So we need to brainstorm some ideas that support the first point and brainstorm some ideas that support the second point. This is a crucial stage in your planning because you need to think of ideas that are going to let you write some interesting arguments. It doesn't have to be your opinion, it just has to show off your English and your ability to construct and develop an argument. So sports stars are often paid too much, but why is this and how can I defend this? Well, maybe I could say sports stars have a very short career, so they need to earn a lot of money in that short time because they retire early. It's entertainment. Movie stars and singers often get high salaries. It should be the same for sports stars. I think they work hard and they train incredibly hard, so they deserve to be paid well for this type of work. It's very physically demanding. So those points I can put together for my argument in favor of one side. For the other side, I might look at a job which should be paid more, which is not paid as much as sports stars. For example, doctors and nurses. They don't earn as much as sports stars, and I could say that this is not fair. We can also say that tickets to see those sports stars are often expensive as a result of those high salaries. Poor people often can't afford to go see these football or sports stars, and that seems unfair. In this brainstorming ideas, you can think of more than 3 arguments for both sides and choose the best ones from that list. Now you are going to brainstorm some ideas for the next question. Nowadays, an increasing number of people are working from home instead of going into the office. So this is an advantage and disadvantage essay. We're going to think of some of the advantages of working from home and some of the disadvantages of working from home. I'm going to show you 5 possible arguments in favour of working from home. I'd like you to decide which 3 are good arguments that are relevant to the question. Number 1, more flexible hours for people who work from home. Number 2, they have higher salaries. Number 3, they can look after their young children if they work from home. Number 4, they don't have any social contact with their colleagues. And number 5, working from home saves time travelling. Which of these are good arguments in favour of working from home? Look at the next question below this video and choose the 3 correct options. So the relevant advantage arguments here are more flexible hours. So if you don't have to go into an office, you can choose when you want to work. Number 2, higher salary. I don't think there's anything to support this. Working from home doesn't necessarily give you a higher salary than working at the office. So this would not be a good argument unless you could somehow justify it. Number 3, they can look after young children. So this is true. If you're working at home and you have young children, you're able to take care of them. So this would be a good argument in favour of that. Number 4, no social contact with your colleagues. I think to most people, this would be a bad thing. Maybe for you, this would be a good thing. But as an argument Globally, I think this belongs on the disadvantage side, not on the advantage side. Most people want social contact. Number 5, saves time traveling. So if you think about the consequences of working from home, you don't have to drive to work. You don't have to take the train, for example. So I've got my 3 arguments for the advantages now. I can use all of these, or maybe take 2 of them and put them in one paragraph. That's one of my body paragraphs. For my second body paragraph, I'm going to talk about the disadvantages. I'm going to show you 5 possible disadvantage arguments. Again, I'd like you to choose 3 which are suitable for our essay. Number 1, it's difficult to separate your home life and your work life if you work at home. Number 2, no social contact with your colleagues. Number 3, children find it difficult to pay attention in online classes. Number 4, there are more distractions like TV, food in your refrigerator, and maybe a sunny garden. And number 5, I personally find it quite boring working from home. Look at the next question below this video and choose the 3 correct options for good disadvantage arguments. Right. Number 1, it's difficult to separate your home life and your work life. I think this is a good point. It's a negative point about working from home. It can be difficult to know when work finishes and when your normal life begins. Number 2, no social contact with colleagues. As we said before, this is a good disadvantage argument. So some people need that face-to-face contact with their co-workers. Number 3, children can't pay attention in online classes. This is true, it's a good point, but it's not related to the question. It's not talking about education or children's experience of doing school at home. It's talking about working from home. So we shouldn't link this argument at all. Number 4, there are more distractions. Okay, I think this is a good point. Maybe from the perspective of an employer, your employees might be less productive. So this is a good argument here. Number 5, personally, I find it boring. This personal experience argument is not so strong. Our arguments should be global. They should apply generally, not specifically to you. So this is not such a good argument. So after our brainstorming session, we have 3 arguments on one side and 3 arguments on the other. Now we can start to plan the structure of our essay. First, we need an introduction. What is an introduction? An introduction is always the first paragraph of an essay. It introduces the topic, so it gives some context, and then it explains a little bit what will be covered. It outlines the main arguments that you'll be presenting in your essay. So what do we have to include? Your first sentence should be a general introductory sentence. It gives some context to the debate, or it gives some context to the issue that you will be discussing in your essay. This sentence, or the sentences after, should also paraphrase the question. You need to show the examiner that you understand what is being asked of you, and the best way to do this is to take the question and paraphrase it. You then need to explain how you're going to develop this argument. Maybe give a summary of the 2 sides of your argument. Don't go into detail, but explain what this topic means, what the consequences of those 2 sides are. You can also include your opinion in the introduction. So in an opinion essay, it's absolutely fine to put your opinion in both the introduction and the conclusion. In the conclusion, it's absolutely necessary. In the introduction, it's not always necessary. So let's think about how we can paraphrase the question for our introduction. Let's look at this question again, and again, let's identify those keywords. Sports stars get paid too much. They deserve the money they receive. So we're going to take this idea and use our own words to express a similar meaning. A number of people claim that professional athletes earn too much, while others believe they work hard for their salaries. Can you see how I've paraphrased each of those keywords and some of the other structures of this sentence? So, as some people say, we've got a number of people claim. Sports stars I've paraphrased as professional athletes. Get paid I've paraphrased as earn, and too much I've kept the same. It's not absolutely necessary to paraphrase every single word, but the majority should be in your own language. Others, so other people, believe that they work hard. So this is connected to they deserve that money. They work hard for their salaries. This is the money that they receive. Let's do the same thing with this question. Nowadays, an increasing number of people are working from home instead of going into the office. Let's think about those keywords and some of the other main words in this question and try to think of some synonyms. First of all, nowadays. Look at the options A, B, and C and decide which of those is a good synonym for nowadays. Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. Option B, these days, is a good paraphrasing of nowadays. At the moment and now really are talking about this moment we're in, whereas these days and nowadays are speaking generally. An increasing number of. Which of these expressions is a synonym of an increasing number of? A, B, or C? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. A synonym of an increasing number of is more and more. So that's the only one that shows that it's going up, it's increasing. People. Think about the context of the question and academic language for your essay. Which of these words is a synonym of people in this context? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. So in this case, because we're talking about people working, employees would be a good synonym. Citizens and guys are both synonyms of people in some contexts, but not in this context. Working from home. What's another way that we could say this? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. Option A, do their jobs remotely. That word remotely means distance or not at the office. B, do their homework is about being at school. And C, working at home is a paraphrasing, but we've only changed from to at. So there's not enough difference here for it to be a good paraphrasing that shows off your vocabulary. Instead of. Which of these expressions has a similar meaning to instead of? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. Option B, rather than, is a synonym of instead of. Finally, going into the office. What's another way that we could say this? Think about how to paraphrase it. Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option which has a similar meaning to going into the office. Here, B, travelling into work is a good synonym for going into the office. Working in their office is not exactly the same because you could have an office in your own house, so an office there meaning a room where you work, and C, working online, well, that's the opposite. If you're working from home, then you're probably working online. So now we can use these synonyms to construct our own sentence. These days, more and more employees are able to do their jobs remotely rather than traveling into work. So this is a fantastic sentence for our introduction. We've used our own words to paraphrase the question. So we can use this paraphrasing of the question as our first sentence because it gives context to the debate. Now I'm going to show you the other sentences that make up this introduction. A. In my view, employers need to carefully consider what is best for their company and for the happiness of their staff. B. However, there are a number of issues related to productivity and social contact. C. This idea of home working may be very attractive to many workers. So our first sentence is up here. But A, B, and C are the sentences which come after. They are not in the correct order. So what is the correct order of these sentences to make an introduction? Look at the next question below this video and choose the option with the correct order of these sentences. The correct order is C, B, and then A. So our first sentence was, these days more and more employees are able to do their jobs remotely rather than travelling to work. I've paraphrased the question, and it's also a sentence which gives us some context, some background before we argue the points of the essay. Then C. Here I'm presenting one side of the argument. This idea of home working may be very attractive to many workers. So this suggests that in one of my paragraphs, I'm going to talk about the attractive benefits of home working to the employees. B is the sentence providing the other side of the argument. However, there are a number of issues related to productivity and social contact. I'm not explaining exactly what I mean. I'm going to do that in my body paragraphs. But I can see from this introduction that in those paragraphs, my criticisms of home working will be related to productivity and to do with that social contact. And then this final sentence gives my opinion. This isn't necessary, but it's a nice way of finishing your introduction. In my view, employers need to carefully consider what is best for their company and for the happiness of their staff. So it's your personal opinion expressed in a formal academic way. That is the end of the class. Now it's time to watch class 2 and then do any of the practice activities and training on this topic. Remember, if you have any questions, you can click on that chat icon at the top of your page there to send us a message with any questions that you have. Thank you for listening.